Sadly, we Stranger Things fans did not get the secret ninth episode that we've all been dying for, that we were expecting to come out on January 7th, also known as Conformity Gate. But that does not mean that we will not be getting an alternate ending. I believe we will, and let me prove it to you.
It's forced conformity. That's what's killing the kid!
We're going to start things off with our fan favorite, delightful Derek. Early on in season 5, Derek is seen playing a video game. Does anyone know what game that is by any chance? The game Derek Turnbow is playing is actually a game called Ghosts and Goblins. In Ghosts and Goblins, you play all the way through this entire game, just to realize at the end of it, it's a dream and Satan has been playing mind games with you the entire time. So once you reach the end, you then have to beat the entire game again, now in the real world, no longer in a dream, and you have to go back and finally defeat Satan. Which, if you ask me, that sounds an awful lot like someone that we already know that is playing mind games and within his mind and trying to give this false reality. Which, if you ask me, there's a reason that they put this game in here. It was nowhere near one of the top selling games back then, and the fact that it has this weird, ominous, dream world type aspect to it where the main villain is messing with your mind and then making you perceive things differently than they actually are. I feel like that was put in here for a reason. My next point of evidence I would like to bring up goes to one of our other favorite characters, Holly Wheeler, which she crushed it this season. To me, that is very bold of the Duffer Brothers to say, hey, here's a new actor who's taking over Holly Wheeler. Now, Fisher, you're going to have to pretty much carry this season. And throughout this entire season, we see multiple characters reference this book, A Wrinkle in Time, but we mainly see Holly reading it. We also see where Mike kind of sees it out of the corner of his eye. I don't know how I typically saw it, but maybe it's calling out to him or something like that. But one of the main things we get from A Wrinkle in Time is this place called Camazotz. In A Wrinkle in Time, there's this planet called Camazotz, and Camazotz is basically a planet of conformity that is controlled by a disembodied brain. Yeah. So similar to Vecna's mind world, where conformity is being forced, free will is suppressed, but there's also this disembodied figure we keep seeing throughout the season that Vecna is sitting below. It ends up being kind of like the mind flayer being, whatever you want to call it, but he's sitting below like this disembodied just figure with the heart beating above him. And within this planet on Camazotz, everyone is supposed to move on like everything is perfect and nothing is wrong. And they're just being fed this false reality that everything is okay. Does that sound a little familiar to you guys? So why is it now at the end of the season, mainly our 4 most rebellious characters, you could say, like Steve is just accepting that and Hawkins doesn't have like a good relationship, is a baseball coach, even though he was known as a basketball player. He's just accepting that. And Robin just accepting changes going on. And Nancy just saying, oh, yeah, I dropped out college and essentially is slowly becoming her mother. Like, how are they just conforming to this and allowing this just to happen and be like, oh, yeah, it's all right. And I know they're kind of setting up the spinoff that these 4 are going to go and take on, but it feels like it's not, it just doesn't feel real to me. And in my previous video, I stated that Vecna is still alive, but if you go back and look at the start of the epilogue, you hear a heartbeat, which kind of sounds a lot like the same heartbeat we would hear with things with Vecna. And then they start laying these bricks on where they're repairing the city hall, and it sounds like the clock every time they're hitting the masonry chisels going. And it's the same beat at which we heard the grandfather clock, the pendulum swinging back and forth when Vecna was about to unleash his curse. Which now that takes me to Vecna's death scene. And, I love how they brought in Joyce with the axe. That kind of symbolized a lot that, she pretty much started with the axe to defend herself and hopefully find Will in season 1. And now, the end of it, season 5, she has this axe. And she's going to chop Vecna's head off. But what does she do? She swings the axe 11 times. 11 times. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, Jane Hopper, 11L, That's not the 11 I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 11 that took place in season 4 during Eddie's Vecna campaign. I don't know if you guys remember, but they rolled an 11. And what was the 11? It was a miss. Therefore, I think swinging at Vecna 11 times, like, those have to add together. Like, that was a miss in Eddie's campaign. Therefore, it may have been a miss in actually killing him. There's a million other things that I could point to about my evidence towards this. But if you're asking me,
But Vecna lives!